What is next level Yu-Gi-Oh? You have a game that exists a certain way. You know, there's spells, traps, and monsters. Then you got different types of monsters, different types of spells, different types of traps, right? That makes up the basis of the game. Then there's the field in which you put the cards and play out these games with an opponent, with another player. So how can you next level? How can you take that to the next level? How can you go beyond spells, traps, and monsters, right? Well, the mind, the players, what you decide to play, what you decide to do. That's where playstyles come in. Like, do you choose to be aggro? Do you choose to be a defensive player, a control player? That's where, playstyles come into play a lot. Because that's the next level. The way you think. If you think of a card game like a video game, so you have a lot of experience playing video games. Well, if you think of a card game like Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, as a video game, then that's taking it to the next level. Because you're now using concepts and ideas and your experience from playing video games now into a card game. So you're seeing things from a different perspective. And that's the thing about next level Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Is looking at the game from a different angle, from a different point of view. Back in the day, you bought packs, you got cards, you built your deck with whatever you had. That's it. You bought packs, you made a collection, and you built a deck based off of that. It took a while before archetypes was a thing, and so forth and so forth. So it's like you bought packs, you got cards, and you made those cards worth something. You made them usable. You found which ones you can use, and then you used them. The ones you couldn't use, those are the ones you had saved away in your tin box or however way you were storing your cards, and then you traded them to other people who could use those cards. Sometimes you had a really good card, but it didn't fit your deck's design or whatever you were doing with your deck. It didn't fit in there, or you couldn't fit in there because you already had too much stuff going on in the deck already, so you didn't have space for that extra card. So then it becomes a tradable card. You could trade it for something else. But now we have the ability to buy pre-built decks like structure decks and starter decks and things of that nature. We have ways to play test decks before we even buy any cards. We can now individually buy the cards we want. We can even buy a whole deck as is now, because we have all this technology and stuff like that. So that already is taking the game to the next level, where now you can go watch videos of how a certain deck works and how it operates, and then actually play, copy those decks and play them. But the premise of the game, when it was originally created, was for the purpose of everybody buying packs and upgrading their decks and playing that way. Think of what's the next thing that they could add to the game. Think about how long the game might last. Are we gonna have a couple more years of products and stuff coming out, and archetypes and creature types and so forth and so forth. They did create a couple new creature types, so you should assume that there's going to be support for that, which means that's more cards. That means they have plans to keep this game going further. They're trying to take this game to the next level, right? Next level Yu-Gi-Oh. So, I like other types of games, especially like chess and whatnot. And I'm slowly getting better at that. I like being creative and problem solving. And that's the thing that chess does. It puts you in a position where every move you make creates a new scenario that you have to solve. You have to solve a problem. Because first you start off with a plan, just like life. In life, you start off with a plan. You plan to go to college, right, and get a degree in something, and then get a job doing that, and live life based off of that. That's the plan. But stuff happens, decisions get made. You go a different route, different direction. A problem rises, so then you try to solve that problem, and sometimes the problem you solve becomes a problem itself. For example, if you needed a place to stay, right? So you would get a job so that you can get an apartment, right? So that solved a problem. But then now you got stuck in a cycle of working, paying for the apartment, working, paying for the apartment. Then you forgot to do the other stuff, like going to college or something, getting your degree or something else. Or let's say you are going to college and working and paying for this apartment. But then after you're done your degree, you don't use the degree to get a career, better job. You stay doing the same job you're already doing, keep paying the rent that you're already paying. You know what I mean? Or you just keep the job you have and then you just save up enough money to get a house or a mortgage or something, and then just that's a little strange because that wasn't the original plan, but that's what happens. You make a move, you make a decision, then something happens, then you gotta make another decision, and you can end up going a different path, a different direction than you initially planned to. And the same goes for Yu-Gi-Oh. You have plans to summon a monster from your extra deck or your main deck or something, or even have a plan to steal your opponent's monster and use it to beat your opponent's monster, beat him. But then he ruins that plan, right? Because he makes a decision, then you make a decision, then y'all go back and forth until it gets to a point where you don't get the end result you wanted. Some people start off with the mindset of like, their deck is strong, they got the best decks, money, the best cards money can buy, and so they're guaranteed to win. That is not true, because again, decisions have to be made. Could you win because you have good cards and you have the advantage that the cards in your deck are better and what they do than the cards in your opponent's deck? Yeah. Can you win because you drew better, more consistent than your opponent? You were able to get your best cards during the duel while your opponent was not getting his best cards. None of his cards had the proper synergy. Your cards did, so you automatically had the advantage. Could that happen? Yeah. But that's also why you practice to balance out your deck, to reduce those scenarios, the scenarios where you don't draw your cards consistently. You want to reduce it. It's hard to never draw bad. It's virtually impossible not to draw bad, because the whole point of shuffling your deck and your opponent shuffling your deck and cutting decks is to make it where you don't consistently draw good. That's the whole point. That's why it's funny when some people get mad that they can't consistently draw the best cards. It's like you're not supposed to. That was the whole point of shuffling and cutting our decks. But if you built your deck to circumvent that, to go against the grain, go against that concept, like, well, yeah, I have to shuffle my deck. My opponent has to shuffle my deck. My opponent has to cut my deck. All right, with all that randomization, then clearly you have to decide what you're gonna do. Are you gonna put search cards? Are you gonna put more draw cards? Are you gonna put cards to shuffle your deck? Are you gonna put cards that, like, for example, you're gonna put cards that don't get the story real easy and they stay on the field longer? Like continuous spells, continuous traps, monsters can't die by battle, or card effect. That way it can slow the duel down. Since these cards stay on the field longer, you don't have to worry about being in a scenario where they leave the field so fast that if you don't draw good, you're at a disadvantage. You want to be in a situation where your cards stay on the field longer. Therefore, if you do draw bad cards, you will still have the advantage. You still can play the game and not be at a disadvantage because you still have stuff on the field.